So, welcome, James, and thanks for taking some time today to have a chat about your experience with marketing and being part of Superfast Circle. But listen, before we get into some questions, can I just invite you to say a little bit more about yourself and about Opus Resourcing for those who are listening?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on today. It's appreciated. For those who don't know me, my name's James Shenton. I'm a managing consultant at Opus Resourcing. We're a boutique technical recruitment business who've been trading now for the last 19 years, focusing on predominantly across the UK, Europe, and the US at the sort of mid to exec level. So very much focused technology centric and working closely with customers. We're driven by two very experienced managing consultants.
Mm. And so next year, and I hadn't quite realised this, I don't think, next year's a big year then in terms of celebrating 20 years.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So,
I feel some marketing opportunities coming along there.
Indeed, yes. Another year of growth, hopefully.
Now, we've worked together for a couple of years now, but, let's maybe just go back in time a little bit and just think about before we started working together, where were you at with Opus? Because I don't think you'd done lots of marketing before.
Yeah, no, that's fair to say. I mean, we were relatively established, obviously, sort of 16, 17 years in. I'd worked on some very large PSLs with people like Sky, 3, worked with people like Apple. So a lot of our business in the first 15 years was coming through delivering on big PSLs and networking within the sort of talent acquisition community, and having a reputation for delivery across a really diverse range of roles and being seen as a troubleshooter for sometimes more of the difficult roles that organisations had within the technology space. I think two things have changed over. Obviously, there's been ups and downs over those years. We've had the dot-com bubbles, the financial crisis. But predominantly, I think talent acquisition teams have grown a lot over the years. So companies are starting to scale, and particularly over the last few years, we're really scaling in tech. Very big talent acquisition teams, and also. There's been a big increase, I suppose, in recruitment consultancies as well in the tech space. So there's a sort of starting to see a bit more of a squeeze, in terms of people doing it themselves, companies doing it themselves, and also sort of increased competition. And I think, whereas when we first started, a lot of recruitment companies were maybe not as professional as they are now. I think the market has changed. I think a lot of companies have really improved. Our proposition's always been relatively similar in terms of our professional nature. But I think there's definitely been increased competition and cost consciousness over the last couple of years in terms of companies, in terms of what they're willing to spend, and when you've got a big TA team, you've got to use them.
Absolutely. I mean, it makes complete sense from their perspective. So you've got increased competition from internal TA teams. You've got increased competition in the marketplace. So what were some of the challenges for you then at that time as you were thinking about, we need to do something about this marketing thing?
I think because most of our business had been from referrals, that was becoming harder.
Right.
And there was another big seismic shift in that TA teams were actually starting to get laid off. So the tech market over the last 2 years was quite early in the cycle of downsizing with the Metas and the Googles and the Amazons all making big layoffs. Suddenly the market changed, and companies were looking at they were looking very much at sustainability instead of outright growth. So that
Right.
combined with TA and increased competition meant we need to look at our proposition, make sure, for the first time, we were probably having to go outside of our warm network and seek
Right.
new business. So it was a case of then, okay, how do we do this? How do we formalise our marketing to have a stronger brand and really have a more formal sort of product offering and look at our positioning. So I started to think, okay, who can help us with
That.
this?
Yeah.
We don't have the internal capacity
to do that. And just before we kind of pick up on that, just if I can just go back and ask you, because it's something that, as I talk to lots of different business owners, that they talk about, referral, historically has been a huge channel for business and new opportunities. What was it that you were seeing about referral? Because if that had been a main channel for new business for you, what was it that you were starting to see as the market was shifting?
Well, I mean, I did a quick sort of bit of data analysis on, a lot of our referrals came through TA teams,
Right.
and they tended to move typically every 2 or 3 years.
Right.
Obviously, I need quite a lot of head ofs, talent leads, and as they moved, they were like, "Who can we bring in?"
Oh,
Generally bring in James, who's been on the top tier of the previous PSL, and they know the sort of personal nature of what we do. But I think as once I did that data analysis, I saw that about 50% of my TA network were actually unemployed. There was that much of a seismic shift in terms of the market. So I realised that probably, that we weren't we weren't going to get that volume of referrals that we were used to.
Some new channels. Yeah. I don't think I'd realised. Right, that's good to either be reminded of that. So no, okay. So you do your analysis, you realise that. How did you come across Superfast Recruitment?
I'm trying to cast my memory back because I think I sort of tracked you guys for a while.
Right. Stalking.
Yeah. Because obviously I'd been thinking about it for a while. But no, I think it was actually an email initially, a campaign that you were running, which caught my eye. I then sort of obviously I think I must have followed you guys on LinkedIn, and then I jumped on a webinar, and then I really got the sense of what you did. I think we then followed up with a call.
We did.
Sort of went through, more about what you could offer and talked about you spent time getting to know us and what our challenges were. And then at that point, it seemed sensible to, so obviously, join and try and sort of solve some of the marketing issues that we had or to reposition ourselves.
And so just kind of like expanding a little bit on that then, because I do remember those early calls that we had, and I think something that you talked about was it was you wanted somebody who was going to take the time to understand and have some of those conversations. But I wonder what else was it, in terms of how we work and what we do that made you decide, okay, this is for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously as a business owner, you're really busy, wearing a lot of hats. So I suppose the unique proposition of what you do, because you only focus on recruitment, marketing, and then there's a lot of elements to obviously what you offer. But it's, I suppose, quite similar to ourselves. There's two of you. You're very experienced, very consultative, and you'll work with people in different ways to sort of achieve what's necessary, and probably really needed a bit of hand holding. We don't have a marketing person. So it was that was kind of what I was looking for, someone that could offer something that wasn't a one size fits all, that it was sort of boutique approach, I suppose. Across both sort of marketing in general in terms of the plan, but also business development and the other recruitments as well, and
Yeah.
content as well.
Yeah. And so when you think then about, let's say, what have you been able to do since you joined? Because it's actually coming up for 2 years.
Yeah, it's 2 years. Yeah,
It is, isn't it?
yeah,
And so, it hasn't been the easiest 2 years in some
no,
ways either, has
yeah,
it?
no, it's
Business
not.
wise. So yeah. So what are some of the things then that you've done, and how, I guess, being part of Superfast Circle, how has that supported you?
Yeah, okay. We've done quite a lot. In terms of obviously really thought about our positioning. So we started off just really trying to get a feel for what are our values, what's our brand proposition, and then
Yeah.
building out the product proposition as well, and sort of really sort of going back to the drawing board, from everything to, in terms of the process, to the value we deliver, and then that led on to a rebuild of the website, which worked quite well actually, in terms of having to build a website really does formalise a lot of a lot of those aspects, and all the different
Yes.
products and testimonials and case studies. And so we built out, we've done a lot of things around, obviously built brand new brand website, loads of marketing material, from specific case studies to a brochure to pitch decks to regular blogs to market reports. Really worked a lot on our LinkedIn positioning, and being thought leaders, and personal brand, company brand. So yeah, so I mean, lot of aspects over the 2 years, and then moving more into the BD as well, into the email automation. So, but not all in the first 6 months, but over
No,
the,
I was
2
going to say,
years.
yeah, it's kind of like been a process, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And so let's just take a few of those areas then. So you mentioned about sort of about the BD side, and so how, because I think that marketing and BD, it's kind of like a grey area. It used to be like, you've got marketing and you've got sales over here, and like never the twain will meet. But I don't quite see it like that today. But I'm just curious, what's been your experience of how, I guess, you've used some of the resources that you have access to help you on that BD side, and how you've brought the two bits together.
Yeah, I mean, I think so we've had success through the website. So we've had
Yeah.
some inbound clients who we've worked with and had some success with. I think also we were getting a lot more sort of in candidate instructions through the website. So I think in terms of the overall proposition, it's a lot better. We've had traction from cold email. It's not easy. It's
Yeah.
probably low volumes, but we've probably been a bit over specific in terms of some of we've done campaigns which are quite bespoke to
Yeah.
different types of technology, or different types of organisations trying to help them with a problem. So we haven't implemented much mass in terms of emails,
No.
but from the ones we've had, I think we've had quite good traction.
Yeah.
And then I think actually just the more subtle sort of inbound through more regular posting on LinkedIn, and really being more active again, just being more consistent with our warm network. And at some points when you just think that maybe things are never going to happen, someone just comes out of the woodwork and surprises you. So yeah, we've had some quite significant wins this year,
Yeah.
both from senior level roles and an exec search role through just more touch points, I guess, both on LinkedIn, and email, just making sure we're more consistent over long periods of time, because it's easy to be always about the now, that you don't know when someone's need is going to be. It might be.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and we're always very. I think as recruiters, too instant in terms of thinking that
Impatient.
people will probably, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, no, I
Maybe,
think, I think as business owners, we have a tendency to kind of like be impatient, and we want results now, don't we? And I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
what's interesting is that, sometimes I'll end up having conversation with people and they'll say, well, whatever the strategy is, it didn't work. And, as I start asking a few questions, then you realize that actually, because we can be impatient, that individual, that owner, perhaps has made that judgment. Well, I've not got I've not got what I wanted over the last 4 to 6 weeks, so I'm going to stop because it's clearly not working. But yet, something that I really see, especially kind of like this year, because you've had a massive focus on BD this year, is that you've been doggedly consistent with it. And I know it's not been easy at times being patient, but
yeah,
it has really kind of like started to pay off, in this last kind of like sort of 3-4 months with some of the opportunities that you've had, and that consistency, even when you're spinning lots of plates and wearing lots of hats, that consistency is really important when it comes to marketing, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, and I think generally once we work with a customer, our repeat business rate is well over 95%. So it's just about engaging and showing them
Yeah.
what we're capable of, and the flexibility and the value we can add over and above being transactional. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I know that you mentioned that, let's say combined with the website, you've also done, a company brochure, you've got a pitch deck, etc. And so you've really been building out your branded resource in that way. What difference do you think? Let's say you've talked about the website with inbound leads, which is fabulous, but what difference do you think perhaps, up leveling that brand and having some of those resources and using them, how has that helped?
I mean, I guess as a small business, it's hard to, as a business owner, it's really hard to be hands-on recruiting, resourcing, winning business, marketing. There's so many aspects. I think what we needed was, the help to not only to some of the tools and experience to go through the situations where you're a little unsure, but yeah, I mean, it has. I feel like we're a lot stronger now in terms of our position or brand, and when I go and meet customers, I feel like we represent ourselves well in terms of our materials.
Absolutely.
It's all consistent. There's a good
Yeah.
consistency, whereas before I think possibly we didn't really need to worry about it too much, because it was mainly about reputation, and our position was quite strong because we need people ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Whereas it's kind of like, with things changing.
yeah,
And I think certainly, when I've seen kind of like the results of what you've been doing, there's that, you can confidently, and you have recently, sat in front of, people at a global brand, just like you did before when you were getting lots of referrals and the market was really buoyant and things. And
yeah.
you represent yourself, and you can sit alongside any of the big companies, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, we've just done pitches to COOs, CTOs, delivered roles for CEOs, in the last 6 months. So we've taken on, I would say a small amount of high value customers that hopefully will grow. I feel quite buoyant going into next year, even though it's
Yeah.
still quite tough.
Yeah.
We haven't really, I'd say, although we haven't grown revenues massively, we haven't lost revenues either, which is,
Yeah.
I think most companies have been struggling. But I feel we're stronger going into 2025, and we're certainly more optimistic, and yeah,
Yeah.
in a good position.
Good. Well, I am pleased to hear that, because you've put a lot of work in, I think, to kind of, build those foundations for next year. When you think about, I suppose, when you first joined Superfast Circle and you started working with Denise and I, you know, I've joined programs, we joined programs, and you kind of like, you sort of think, well, how is it going to be? you've got some expectations and you're wondering, how is it going to align or not? How was that for you in terms of what you expected and what your experience has been?
Wow. That's a tough question.
Sorry.
I think, I mean, it's been a great experience. I think just the regularity of the calls, I think even the yearly get together, the ability to talk to other business owners, within the recruitment space, the weekly chats we have, the fireside chats about, what people are trying to implement. And
Mm,
yeah, I think it makes you more determined to deliver when you're hearing what other people are doing as well, and having the tools to do it. I think if you were trying to implement all this without help and a strategy, it'd be quite a challenge, because typically you don't get that many hours a week to do it. If you don't have support. It's trying to sort of make best use of the time, and just really just brilliant to have that specialist sort of knowledge. And yourselves being small business owners and a boutique consultancy, it just aligns well. And I think it just makes life a lot easier, and more viable to deliver.
yeah. And I mean, often, as I am chatting to owners, people are considering, what do we do with marketing, pretty much like you were a couple of years ago. And, they're uncertain because there's a lot that you can do with marketing, and it can be overwhelming at times. And I think sometimes that can make people feel additionally uncertain. And so if there are, let's say, some owners who perhaps are sitting on the fence and they're thinking, I know I need to do something, but what do I do? What would you say to somebody like that, having had the experience that you've had, and and reaping some of the rewards of it now?
I think it's very easy to procrastinate. Especially with business development. But the trouble is, if you procrastinate, there are recruitment businesses going to the wall. There are recruitment businesses that are not innovating. And I think, if you're not innovating, you're not trying new things, you're not marketing, I think there's a good chance you're not going to grow unless you're very fortunate in this market. So I would encourage you to try things and try and apply a strategy. I mean, it depends on your bandwidth, your budget, but I think it can be done with a sensible budget, and if you're quite structured in the way you allocate your time, it's achievable. I think, if you're serious about growing a business or retaining the size of your revenues, you're definitely going to need to implement some marketing and definitely business development within your workplace.
Yeah. And for you, what kind of, like, I suppose, what convinces you to keep working with us? Because you've worked with us for a couple of years, we're going to be working together next year. And and certainly when we set up Superfast Circle a number of years ago, that wasn't our automatic intention, I think, until we realised that actually there is so much to share with people from a marketing point of view. And over time, we see that people want to kind of like learn and keep doing more. But yeah, I suppose it's interesting to know what keeps you want to keep moving forward.
I think the reality is you don't know what you're going to face in any given year, so you'll have different circumstances that require you to lean on we have regular chats, we have client scenarios, we've had presentations where you guys have helped us to reposition our slides, really think about our offering. So it's more than just marketing. It's sort of I see you guys as mentors, and in a number of ways. So it's marketing's obviously one piece, but in the ongoing way, it's things like pitches and scenarios and PSL tenders, we can bounce those off you and get your
Absolutely.
views. And obviously, I think the yearly event's really useful as well. And and just being consistent. I think using the content consistently. Obviously increasing the size of the content catalogue on the website. A number of aspects, but probably as the marketing becomes more advanced, certainly BD needs to improve and become even more strong for us.
Mm-hmm.
But it does take, probably as a small business owner, it does take a little bit of time to do everything. I would say, and even we've started talking about other things like joining networks and combined networks for the US that I know you're a part of, and we've done a fee split with someone in the network as well, the Superfast network, which has been really great. So you've introduced us to someone who obviously is a recruiter but in a different discipline, so we've managed to strike up a relationship with them and have done a good sized transaction in the US. So and we're talking about working further. So I think there's just other things that can come out of being in the circle, which has been great for us.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear, and I know that I was going to ask you in terms of thinking of 2025. You were saying that that you feel really positive, optimistic. What for you? What did kind of like your big let's say from a marketing point of view, what are your big areas for focus for next year? Because you've got a really great base now. You've got this amazing website. The brand's really elevated and everything.
So I think I need to sit down and think about this a bit more. But yeah, I think in terms of positioning, I like to sort of move more into exec search. So that's my goal over the next 5 years, to become a little bit more specialist in that area at a higher level. So probably we'll be trying to target a lot more LinkedIn and sort of articles and knowledge sharing around that. So I think that's my marketing goal, to become more focused in the exec search and drive and become probably automate more than we've started, but to try some slightly higher volume, in terms of BD campaigns as well.
Yeah, because you've really kind of like focused on the more tailored, more personalized approach, and there's we can talk about that blend there as well. And so I think it's for people listening, it's what you're saying. You can't expect to do everything in 6 months, even though we might want to as business owners. It is kind of like it is like a step-by-step approach, and one that clearly makes a huge impact and gets great rewards as well. So look, thank you so much for your time today. Looking forward to plans for next year, and we can talk in more detail about that as well. And we will speak soon.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me. It's been
You're
a pleasure.
welcome. Cheers, James.
Okay.